very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the very first edition of Conversations with Eminent Women. My name is Tshegohaco Moagi. It has gone just 12 o'clock. And of course, we'll be with you for the next hour. And I've got lovely ladies that we'll be in conversation with. And this particular topic is one that I just thought we needed to delve into a little bit more, as we are seeing women having children at a much later stage. And this afternoon, we speak then about first-time moms at 40. Can you believe? Yep, that's correct. There are women who are having children for the first time at the age of 40. And so that's the conversation that we are having today on Eminent Women. You are currently streaming us on YouTube. And please remember to also send through your comments, questions that you may have for our specialists today. And we'll definitely be fielding those questions too as we unpack this very important conversation. Joining us, we've got Nkateko, who is a counseling psychologist. Nkateko Ndala-Magoro, she's a counseling psychologist, because I thought, even though we'll speak to a first-time mom, we need to get an understanding psychologically what actually happens when you become a first-time mom at the age of 40. We also have Modilati Masipa, who is an entrepreneur. She's a fashion designer, and she'll be giving us her lived experience as a first-time mom as well. And later on, Eminent Women Family, we will be having Dr. Dlakavu, who will be speaking to us as a fetal and maternal specialist. She will be joining us in a little while as well. You know what it's like being a doctor. She had to rush off to an appointment, but we'll definitely also have her on the line to speak about the possible dangers, but the solutions in this day and age to such a situation. As I said, my name is Tshegohaco Moagi. Join us every week as we have conversations with eminent women. Let's then get straight into it. And I'd like to start with Modilati. I call her Mo. Mo, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Let's first start off. You are a fashion designer. How did you get into that particular space to be an entrepreneur? And then we'll get into the issue and we'll delve deeper into you being a first-time mom.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it's 12, so it's afternoon. I hope everyone is well. Hi, Tshego. So as a fashion designer, I think it's something that I've always known that I would be, that it would be a career path that I would take. So I've been sewing ever since I was in primary school. I think I had my first machine when I was 9, 10 years of age, so I think this career has always been with me in a sense. But I did go to school to further my studies, and yeah, basically that's been the rest of my life. I've been doing it ever since.
I mean, you can't say to us you did go to school to further your studies without giving us the detail behind it all. But of course, the challenges I can imagine, Mo, when it comes to being a fashion designer in the South African context, especially with what we are seeing, where we are finding the counterfeit, fashions making their way into the country.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we are struggling with as fashion designers. And I just wish maybe the government could meet us halfway and not have such an influx of the fast fashion coming in. And that's actually doing to the industry is making designers let me say, not as excited about the field. I mean, I can give you an example about when COVID hit, and literally the whole country relied on us. And what a great feeling that was, because we were looked up to sew the masks, So I think as a fashion designer or being in the clothing space, for the first time, we had the country looking at us to solve a solution. And that's because it hadn't yet opened up to other countries to supply the masks. So I really do feel like the government should assist us, because the fast fashion is also dumbing us down in terms of what we're doing creatively. Because unlike before, we would have seasonal fashion, whereas there would be clothes for winter, and then there would be for autumn and summer and spring. But now there's a new outfit or there's a new change every 3 weeks, basically. So creatively, it's going to bombard you. There's no way we can survive with that.
I can just imagine, being able to keep up, so to speak, with what is happening in the market. And so, when we speak fashion design, when we speak about your particular journey as an entrepreneur. You've spoken to us about some of the challenges that you faced. Let's just quickly then unpack some of the successes as well that you've had as a fashion designer. I mean, you've done some phenomenal work.
I mean, I've dressed a lot of the big wigs in the country. So that has been exciting without naming people by name, you know. But yeah, it has been exciting. I mean, I've dressed you. And you are a large part of the community of the celebrities that we have in the country. So you are amongst one of them and the rest.
I mean, I'm not sure about being a celebrity, but thank you. I
You're
think
my
I'll take it.
celebrity.
Thank you. So let's bring in then the issue, of course, which is our main topic today, more the issue of being a first-time mom at the age of 40. You know, when I approached you about this very podcast, and being the first premiering actually on conversations with prominent women, you said to me, you know, the issue of being a first-time mom is one of the things that is not explored enough. And there's a large community and a lot of women that are actually first-time moms at the age of 40. When did you then decide that this is the journey that you want to take and you would like to be a mom?
I mean, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm an advocate for women having children at a later stage, you know, but I am a person coming forward and saying that, yes, even at 40, it does happen. I would have liked to have my child a bit earlier, you know, but God bless me at 40, and that's what I'm here for. So, like I'm saying, I'm not advocating that people should wait. You know, I think you are definitely, as a woman, more fertile, you have more energy, you know, etc. So I'm not advocating for women to wait, but I am saying that if you are in your later years, there is still hope for you.
And so, you know, Nkateko, I'd like to bring you then into this because you hear Mo, she says she does not advocate necessarily for women to wait, but psychologically, there must be prep work, right? You want to have a child at some point in life, like she also said, but it might take a little bit longer than what you had hoped for. So when it does take longer, Nkateko, psychologically, how do you prepare your mind that you know what, it might take a bit long, but I'll eventually get there?
Yeah, and I want to speak to that. As Mo was saying, it's not necessarily that she is an advocate for women to wait until that long, but it happened along her journey. And I want to point out, Tseho, that motherhood at 40 can be very empowering because by this age, many women, they have greater self-awareness, emotional maturity and stability, which can be psychologically protective in raising the child. Yes, Mo is pointing to not having energy, but there are also ways in which we can keep ourselves, you know, vital and energized, you know, being at the gym, eating the right food, having support system. So it's not necessarily all doom and gloom to have a child at the later stage. What for me is important is that a mother is more mature to have a child at whatever age it is, because it can be that you have a child at a younger age because of the societal pressure, but you are not emotionally mature and ready to have that child.
And that is an interesting part that you mentioned, you know, being psychologically mature and ready to have that child. Is there anything that can be done, Nkateko, for a woman, whether you are turning 40, you're 27, you know, whatever age, to actually prepare yourself mentally to have a child? But I suppose for the older ladies, you know, from 35, they say that it could be a high risk pregnancy. So, is there anything that you can do mentally to prepare yourself to have a child when you turn 40?
Mostly, it's not really about the, you know, the intended what the intention of having a child later on, but possibly it could be that, all right, an individual is saying, I want to build my career first, or I want to get married first, or I want this and that to be in place before I have a child. So, or even have a, you know, a safety nest before I have a child. So it will be, what are your planned or your future goals align to a baby coming into your life. Yes, I do understand and I acknowledge that with other women who have babies at a later age, it could be fertility issues, and also and not having the right partner to have a child with, because that is also important. So to have a right partner to have a child with. But for most parts, and from women that I have interacted with that have had children at a later stage, if it's not fertility, it has been quite an intentional route of saying, I want to be, I want to build my career up to a certain point, or I want to be married first. I want to have built certain things around me for me to have the child first. So it's really about what has your journey been like? Where it has been a fertility issue, it can, there can be a lot of anxieties and self-doubt and fear and judgment, judging your own body to not having babies, fear of, am I good enough? Am I going to, is this going to work out? Is my child going to be healthy? So sometimes, when you are an older mom, especially when it has been that it's a struggle, we often internalize high expectations and striving to do better than the past generation. So, and this perfectionism can fuel anxiety if left unchecked. And that's the two parts, where one, it's a chosen route, and the other one, it's because of the biology.
Mo, for you, was it a chosen route, or what did you do? I mean, you hear Nkateko also say that, you also have to have the right partner to have a child with at a particular age. And it's something that women often, wait for, to have the right partner, to make sure that the career is nice and set, that, you've got the actual resources that you will need. For you to then have a child at 40, when you did fall pregnant, how did you feel, and how did you then prep to actually give birth at that age? But also, for you, what did you do for yourself to be ready, so to speak, to have a child?
I mean, for me, oh my word, I had been trying prior that for about 4 years. And I think the mental strain of desperately wanting to have a child actually maybe leads to a blockage of you not having a child. Because literally, when I relaxed and I said, you know what, God, I'm going to wait on you and I'm just going to relax and I'm just going to focus on my career. And at that time, before it happened, I was like, okay, fine. In the next 6 months, I'm going to explore fertility options that I've got. And literally, after I relaxed and I just said, you know what, let me focus on other things, I fell pregnant. So I did not even need to take fertility treatment, which I had planned to do. It literally just happened when my nervous system had just allowed the universe to just take charge. So I don't know if I'm very lucky. I mean, I'm grateful, but I think I'm lucky as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that is luck, Nkateko. When you think about that, Mo will come back to just the preps that you then had to do when you found out that you were pregnant. Because Nkateko, I want to then bring you back into this. The thought pattern and having to relax one's body, not think about certain things. Yes, of course. And I'm sure Dr. Dlakavu, when she comes in, she will also tell us that there are women that do struggle to actually have children, at whatever age. But, the thought pattern, and like Mo said, she then took a moment to relax her body, to relax her thoughts, and not to think about it so stringently. Do you think that also works? And that's a mental thing that we also have to consider?
We see it quite often. And we need to also accept the fact that the fertility struggles, it's a silent trauma. We need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge that it takes an emotional toll when there is a delay in conception. Some conceptions, they are marked with miscarriages as well. Mo mentioned that she was about to go into a fertility journey, but that did not happen because she just focused on something else. So The trauma as well can be from the fertility treatments. From many women who go through this route, they tell you about the body changes, the hormonal changes, the discomfort in their bodies, having to monitor the cycle, having to monitor a lot of things, in harvesting the eggs and maybe even fertilizing the eggs, and those eggs not making up an embryo, or trying to harvest the eggs and finding that the eggs are not enough, so it can be a number of things and that journey can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and even the trauma. So what I'm talking about when I say it's an unspoken grief, it's that women often carry grief from previous losses, and then they are dashed into expectations of saying, let's try again. So before you can even grieve a miscarriage, there is that hurrying up of, the clock is ticking. We are on a timeline of hormonal stimulation. So, and especially when they keep the journey private, when that journey is unknown to a lot of people in their community, it is definitely a silent grief, which we need to acknowledge. So what Mo was speaking about, to say, once you start to shift the focus on that journey, because of the emotional toll that journey takes, then the body can be a little bit more receptive. I don't know the exact science, but I know of the impact of trauma, stress on our bodies, in terms of illnesses, in terms of diseases, in terms of not receiving things in general. I mean, even in business in itself, when you are going about in business with a nervous energy, it's highly likely that you don't get to where you want to go. So it also could be because of the high levels of cortisols in our bloodstream, which is a stress hormone as well.
And so, you speak about the clock ticking, Nkateko, and how, as women, that is what we've been brought up to know, that your clock is ticking, you're going to have a child late. How do you have a child late? You get asked all these unnecessary questions, if I can put it as unnecessary questions. How then do we also block that out, especially for a woman who's going to have a child at a later stage, or is actually thinking about it to have a child at a later stage? How do we block out the negativity and the negative questions that may come with it, and just psychologically prepare our bodies for what is ahead and the plans that we actually have?
The first one is to rid ourselves of the stigma, because I think there is a lot of stigma around women conceiving at a later stage, or a person being married for 3, 4, 5, 6 years and not having children. So we need to rid ourselves that. I actually have a couple who are going through a particular journey, and they had to take themselves out of the community that they know, so that they can focus on this journey without eyes looking at them, without this the pressure. So and oftentimes, as we walk in this journey, it could be the fears of the social comparison of saying, am I too old? To being judged, of being left out, especially with younger moms. Mo mentioned, again, I will put the example of energy. So where with younger moms, it might look like they have more energy, or I could have been here or there, should I have been a mother at an earlier age, or my children will have been graduating from high school if I had a child at a younger age. So I think most importantly is to rid ourselves of the stigma, and to think about it as, when it happens, that it is a gift, and to acknowledge that gift, and to not pressurize ourselves, because there is nothing written as a rule or as a law that women thou have children. It's a gift. It's a gift from God. and how the child comes as well, because also at times, so I also, and I often talk to people who have children, who have families in a different way, to say, the route to have a family, we need to also have an understanding. What is your aim? Is your aim to be pregnant, or is to have a family and to raise a generation, to raise a next generation? Because there are many ways to do that. Adoption is on the plate, surrogacy, donor. So there's many forms. Oftentimes, when women go through the fertility route, with their partners, they feel like it's not organic enough. Or when they go the adoption route, they feel like it's not organic enough. And I often challenge this narrative with them to say, at the end of the day, even if it's not a biological gene, it's still your gene in terms of the imprinting, because you are still going to teach that child your own principles, which is going to be your legacy, because they will have been your kin in terms of how you have raised them and how your surname is going to be carried forth because of the mannerism and the behavior. So the fixation as well of the conception versus building a family. And oftentimes when couples come to me with a struggle of conceiving, especially when there's pressure of the biological clock, I often challenge them and say, can we look at what is your aim? Is your aim to conceive, or is your aim to have a family?
And so I want to then, we've now spoken about, the issues of falling pregnant or having a child at the age of 40. And we're speaking about it, of course, this is our main topic, but before, right? Before the issues and what you have to think about and how everything needs to happen, in conversation, of course, with Nkateko Ndala-Magoro, who is a counseling psychologist, Modilati Masipa also joining us on the line here. And, we are having a conversation about being a first-time mom at the age of 40. We are expecting as well to have a conversation with Dr. Dlakavu, and she will be joining us as soon as she possibly can. Mo, I want to then come back to you and let's speak then during, right? We've spoken about before. Let's go into during pregnancy. What did you have to realize about your body that because of your age, it probably might have, it was your first child, so you probably wouldn't have known how it would have reacted if you were younger. But because of your age, what did you realize it could have been because of your age that your body actually started reacting a certain way to your pregnancy?
Like I said, I was very lucky, because my pregnancy was blissful. Literally from not having morning sickness to, oh my word, it was just bliss. I didn't have cravings. Like literally my life was just normal. I was very nervous about the baby maybe being too heavy for me to carry, from an energy perspective, given my age. But also, I think psychologically, because I had prepped myself for so long to have a child, I was ready. So in some instances, I'm like, was it um did I not experience a lot of things, or was it a fact, of how ready I was, that even maybe the things that I experienced, because I was so ready for them, seemed like a norm to me. So I think it's one of the two, but honestly, my pregnancy was blissful, I didn't have morning sicknesses. Like I said, the baby was fine, the baby was healthy. I mean, I was attending my visits at a public hospital as well, which was quite an experience as well for me, because the nurses were so helpful. I just want to stand here and advocate for public hospitals, because I had such an amazing time. I literally looked forward to going to the clinic. I mean, I attended my visit at Dlakavu Hospital, which is near home, and they have I forgot, maybe doctor can help me, but they have a specific section for mommies that are 35 and older. And this is because they take you through rigorous tests throughout the pregnancy because you are of age to determine whether something might be wrong with the baby or whatever. So the public hospitals were amazing. My visits were amazing. I just honestly had an amazing pregnancy.
So happy to hear that, and I think that really is because of probably the mental prep that you
I
did,
think so too.
before actually falling pregnant. We are, of course, live on YouTube. This is Conversations with Eminent Women, and today we are joined by just amazing women, eminent women indeed in the country, where we unpack this very important topic of falling pregnant, being a first-time mom, really, at the age of 40. And a very welcome to all our viewers. Please remember that you are more than welcome to send us a comment. When you can, just write us a comment and just let us know what it says and what your feel is of this very topic. But also, please go ahead and also share with us any experience that you yourself may have. And you can do that in our comment section on YouTube, and we'll read those comments shortly. I want to come back to you more that during your pregnancy, when you look at how everything went, like you say, you were very lucky, you were very blessed, and so forth. But when you look at how your pregnancy went, and during that time, the support that you received must have also been a huge deal.
Look, if you're going to fall pregnant, I think this is for any age group. A support structure is extremely important. And I think that's why I managed to enjoy my pregnancy and even post-pregnancy because of the support structure that I had. So even going further than just the father of your child, but the support structure, I'm talking, we say, it takes a village to raise a child, I guess. I'm experiencing exactly that literally after the birth, sometimes you just want just a little 10 minutes to yourself to do whatever, even if it's just to stare at the ceiling, that 10 minutes of taking one, your sister or your mom or whatever. So definitely, I would say that's amongst the things that you should look around and make sure that it's available, a support structure. That is definitely key to, I think, anyone enjoying their pregnancy, actually.
Nkateko, let me bring you in here before we go to our viewers and the questions that they have as well, or the comments that have come through already. The issue, of course, of having that support structure is something that perhaps some women may take for granted, or may think they do not need. How important is that, especially for one's mental well-being? You read up and you hear about it, that when you are an expecting mother, you need all the support that you possibly can get, no matter the age. But how important is it that even the older that you get, you actually need it perhaps a little bit more?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before I go into that, and shout out to Mo and Leashma Atridgeville. So that's my home as well, Atridgeville, born and bred there. So I'm even happier to hear that Kalafon did such a sterling job in taking you through, and even the intervention that they have in there. I did not even know that. And I will also spread the word as a fellow Atridgevillian. But also what Mo highlighted as well, so before I go into the support structure, is where there's always an expectation that being pregnant at a later stage, so again, just that stigma that frames later motherhood as unnatural or risky. These narratives, they can harm mental health, but I'm glad that Mo had sort of a very smooth one, and not to play out into that stigma that we know, or the societal stigma that we know of women being more at risk. But so when we talk about the social support, I think there is so much power in the chosen community, so not everyone has a strong support system like Mo has already indicated. So where people do not have such a strong support system like, the sisters, the mother, the husband, the partner, the community in itself, therapy and support groups helps to create safe emotional spaces for processing experiences, when somebody is going through maybe the fears, the anxiety that they have. And most of the anxieties are around the safety of the birth of the child, and maybe even building resilience through routine, so encouraging journaling and as I said, or therapy to emotionally anchor an individual through the unpredictable phases of motherhood, because the older mother might think that their child is doing this because they gave birth at a much later stage, only to find that it is normal. So in processing all of these emotions and going and being in support groups, it normalizes their experience, and asking for help and looking at asking for help as strength and not weakness. And remember, when a person has a child at a much later stage, they are high functioning, they are businesswomen such as Mo, they are executives, they have really carved a path in their career, they are known, they are, they kill the cow and come and cut it themselves, so they are really doing it for themselves out there, but still they need support in navigating being vulnerable. So asking for help is not a sign of weakness. And in that also, being in a support system, it helps them to also realize their identity, because remember, there was a strong identification in I'm an executive, I'm a business leader, I am a business owner, I am a principal, I am this. And now being a mother gives you a different identity where you might not even, for the longest time when I had my children, I did not wear anything that is a solid color. I had to wear prints all the time. So that is an identity change. And with that print, then I started wearing a lot of your African traditional cloths because they have prints in them, and that helps when when you're about to go and speak and a child has touched you everywhere. Nobody will see that you have stains in your clothes. So that can be one way of the identity change, where even one student in my class said, "Oh, ma'am, I see you like a lot of African prints. I'm going to Kenya, I'm going to bring you one," and I made some more. So that was then my identity, having changed, where I did not wear solid colors in that time.
Well, that's quite an interesting tip there, Mo. Maybe something that you might also want to grab onto to avoid
No,
this.
I completely get it. I completely get it, because I've just now realized how I can't wear big earrings anymore because he pulls on them. So literally I'd walk out and then just wear an earring on one side, just for representation. But I honestly, I literally have to change my wardrobe here and there. Like I can't have my hair long and hanging because he's going to pull on it, in terms of makeup. You can't wear that much makeup because he wants to touch my face and this and that, So there are somewhat adjustments that you have to make. But like I said, I've been ready, So these adjustments are just a bliss to experience for me. It's at no inconvenience, if I can put it that way.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely get into the after, right? What happens after you've given birth at the age of 40. Let's see if we can't get some of those comments indeed, so that we can read them out and just hear what people are saying right here on the YouTube channel. This is, of course, Conversations with Eminent Women. Joining us is Modilati. She is a mom at 40. Nkateko is a counseling psychologist. And they are both just informing us as to, their journey when it comes to the issue of being a mom at 40, but Nkateko, of course, giving us a bit more as to how you can actually handle that particular time in one's life. You can, of course, send us those comments on YouTube. I think I'm also streaming on my Twitter channel, my Twitter handle, Tshegohaco Moagi_. So we're spreading this far and wide as much as we possibly can. So Mo, I want to then come back to you. As you said, let us then speak to, the adjustments that you've had to make and that you were ready for those particular adjustments. Let's speak to that, having to change certain things, change certain, your earrings. Now you can't be wearing your earrings. Now your hair needs to be a particular way. Mentally, that also can take a bit of a strain, not?
Not really. I've been waiting for my child for so long, guys, so like I'm just happy to just pour into the situation. It's like I'm saying, it's adjustments that I have to make, but that I've been readying myself for. Okay, fine. Firstly, because I'm self-employed, right, and I'm a designer, so my time of working was usually I would work throughout the night. That's where my, let me say, my creative senses are actually heightened rather. And I've just realized now that I can't do that now because So that's been one major adjustment that I've had to make because of that. And I actually tried that. I think after giving birth, after 3 months, I was like, no, I'm ready. I'm getting into work and I'm pouring myself into. But then I realized, I'm like, girl, you're not the same anymore, You're not the same anymore. You need to pull back a bit, you need to restructure, because now one out thing, because I remember literally the first order that I got, that had me work throughout the night. And I had to sleep away from my baby for the first time, and how traumatic that was, because for the first time I had to just watch him lay there and not be sleeping in the bed with him, So that was definitely a major adjustment in terms of work. So now obviously my hours have changed, I've had to implement things like I don't work on Sundays, and I only work half days on Saturdays, those are certain let me say privileges and adjustments that I've introduced into my life because of the child, but at no cost.
At no cost indeed. And I suppose, Nkateko, that is what we also speak to, that if you are prepared for it mentally, afterwards it doesn't feel like it's too much of an adjustment and too much of a sacrifice that you're making when you've made yourself ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And although when Mo started, she said, I'm not advocating for people to have children at a later stage, but I have seen that it works. And again, I'm not saying people should have children at a later stage, but there is a whole different level of preparedness emotionally, socially, and financially than with and typically my younger clients, or even single clients, where it comes at a more heavier cost. So they perceive the sacrifice as personal, where else for a older woman, the sacrifice is not so personal. You understand the sacrifice. So, there will be comments like, I'm not taking a break. This child does not give me a break. But, well, you brought this child to this earth. And with an older, more mature person, they understand that responsibility very well, to say, you have brought this child on earth. So I find it that typically, and I'm not generalizing, but typically, a younger mother will want to ship off their child easily, nearly willingly, versus an older mother, where they will want to stay a little bit more or stretch a little bit more, bond a little bit more. There is an appreciation of the milestone a little bit more. So, and this is not younger versus older kind of a debate, but it's to say there is so much beauty in having children when you are older. It's not a taboo. It's not a stigma. It's not careless. It's not as risky as it used to be without the medical intervention that we have. Now, medicine has progressed to a point where it is possible to have a healthy baby post 40 years.
And I want to then just quickly ask more before we try again to get those comments from our viewers. The issue, of course, of the myths that, should be debunked. And I know that you're not a medical doctor, but of course, from your experience, the myths of trying to debunk what people think actually happens at the age of 40, from your personal experience, of course, what are some of those things that you think need to be debunked?
I mean, I just think women just need to allow themselves to be, I mean, the stigma, my gosh, that comes with having a child at this age. Some of the comments I would get, would be like, oh, like when I was still pregnant, oh, you're pregnant, come on, how a guy, meaning, yeah, come on, how a guy, and I'd be like, oh, my Tom, it's my first child, and then they would go, oh, shame, like, okay. So those are some of the things that I had to deal with, and I think we should completely normalize it, because everybody has different experiences in life. And like I said, for some women, they did not choose to have a child this late, like myself as well. I didn't choose to have a child this late. It just happened that I had a child this late, So I think different women go through different experiences, and people, in a sense, just need to mind their own business in a way, because you never really know what a person is going through, because pregnancy is very, very sensitive,
Yes.
I mean, when I was trying, Tshego, it was literally like pregnancy. I mean, I know the struggle, it was literally pregnancy test after I've literally still got a plastic that I don't want to throw away. It was literally hundreds of pregnancy tests, because every time, and also that also would put pressure on the relationship as well, because now when you think intimacy, you're thinking, I need to catch, I need to catch, and literally that's what the relationship becomes, So yeah, like I'm saying, it's a very, very sensitive topic. I think if you don't have to comment about it to any women that are older and are childless, you don't need to ask them any questions, Yeah, just not to be rude, but let their business be their business, because you never honestly know what a person is going through. So these comments of what are you waiting for? I mean, I was still fortunate because I wasn't from a family that continued to pressurize me, but I knew, people are talking about you, even though they're not talking about you in your face, like, oh, when is the child coming? When is the child coming? So you never really know, you never really know. Don't ask the questions. People are going through a lot, yeah, just mind your business.
Yes, okay. Nkateko, I see you nodding there. You want to add on to what Mo has just said?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's unnecessary pressure, it's unnecessary judgment. You don't know an individual's journey. They could have had 3 or 4 miscarriages. What business do you have in asking them, when are you having a child, or why are you having a child this late? You don't know their story at all. And that adds to then the anxiety and also the trauma of an individual walking the journey. So you can just imagine they are already they're already grieving. They're grieving the fact that they cannot be a mother. They are grieving the babies that they have lost along the way. And now you asking them that question, it just puts so much unnecessary emotional toll and emotional distress on an individual. So if you have nothing to do with that particular woman's fertility, if you are not their doctor, if they have not volunteered any information to you, stay away. Don't ask. Don't even ask if they need help. Maybe they might have their own path as well, their own journey to walk. So unless they tell you or ask for help from you, or unless you are the doctor, you don't have any business in asking. As an employer myself, all you can do is, if they come to you, is to say, how can I support you in this journey? How can I walk alongside you? When do you need to go to the fertility clinic? When is your cycle? What are the hormonal changes? If the person has come to you or has been forthcoming about their own journey. But other than that, you do not have any business, because already they are having battles on their own and you are just adding to that.
I want to then definitely now go into those comments, that we have seen from our viewers, and we welcome, of course, all our viewers on the YouTube channel, Conversations with Eminent Women. This is our premiere episode. We are starting it off on a bang, where we speak about being a mom, a first-time mom at the age of 40. And we know that this is a growing, I don't want to call it a trend, but we are seeing more and more women actually deciding that they are going to have children at a later stage. Let's just take a look at some of the comments that have actually come through, and let's see what people are saying. You are also more than welcome. We're going to call you now the Eminent Women family. You are more than welcome as well to take part in this conversation, and of course, be with us during this time as we have a look at some of the comments. Good afternoon to you, Spiwe. Says, I am honored to be part of this conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being part of this conversation indeed. Questions, comments as well that you may have. We were, of course, hoping to also be able to get in touch with a doctor that can give us a bit more medically, but hopefully if she can join us still, we'll let her join in. Hi, Refilwe says, hello, loving the panel and the conversation. Thank you so much, Refilwe, to you as well for engaging us on this very comment. Khomotso, good afternoon, says, as always, Tshegohaco, you have put together a dazzling offering. Really enjoying this. Thank you so much to really enjoying this. And really so appreciative of everybody that has joined us on the YouTube platform. I just want to say congratulations on everything. So it seems people are really enjoying this particular conversation. I think a bit more than what I expected, because it's something that is not often spoken about in Nkateko, where people don't necessarily speak extensively, about their mental health issues. I want to just read another conversation from Khomotso. It says, I cannot wait for a catch-up conversation of older moms when kids get into the school system, surrounded by the energy of toddlers and much younger moms. Bona, there are many laughs ahead. And Mo, I can just imagine that this is something that you're also looking forward to. But before we get into that, Nkateko, why is it, do you think, that even in this day and age, it's still so taboo to see a woman at a particular age having their first child or having a child, period?
It's how we have been socialized, the societal norms, where fertility is equated to youth. And, when we talk about the survival of the fittest, that is why when a mate, a man is selecting a mate to procreate, to extend their kin, to, create their legacy, they will create a younger mate. So it is really a societal norm. And it's to say and to debunk that myth in today's conversation, to say society has moved away from that, from an older man seeking a much younger woman because of they look like they can be fertile, because that's also not the sole aim of being partnered in this and age anymore. So as I said, the aim back then, it was to procreate so that you preserve your legacy, your kin, your surname. And nowadays, people don't partner for that reason anymore. We partner to, for companionship. We partner to advance legacy in different ways and not necessarily biologically. So let's just say to the society that has normalized having children earlier on because of the sole reason of procreation, to say that society has also moved away from that when it comes to partnering.
Mo Khomotso speaks about the older moms going to schools, dropping their children off, and getting all that energy from the younger moms. And I think it's also important that as much as we speak about the seriousness of being a mom at the age of 40, that we have a bit of laughs about it as well. Now, is that something that you prepared for mentally? You have to be honest with us here.
Look, I mean, I've already taken my son to creche, right? And I've already experienced parents' day, parents' meeting, my first parents' meeting, rather, which I was extremely nervous about because I'm thinking, I'm gonna be the Magogo, etc. So I was very nervous about that. Even my choice of dressing, I have to admit, I I was trying to not look like a 40-year-old person. But I came back. I mean, the parents' meeting, I don't know what's happening with society nowadays because we were almost the same age, which goes back to you talking about how society now, the moms are choosing to have kids at a much later stage. So actually my panic was for nothing, or maybe I'm just lucky with the creche that I chose for my son for now, but honestly I do have like a slight panic, when I think about maybe mother and like parent sports day where the parents are out there and they're about to run, or whatever, play the spoon games, whatever, I don't know, and I'm thinking, am I gonna manage? So those are the things that I'm thinking about, and I think also that are maybe pushing me to live a healthier lifestyle so that I can be able to partake in certain things as well. So yeah, the nerves are there, but I've just decided I'll deal with it as it comes, as and when it comes.
As and when it comes, as and when it happens. And in Nkateko, it is something, I suppose, that when you plan to have a child at a later stage, it's things like that that one needs to think about. Keep that in mind that, like Mo says, eating healthier, making sure that you're there for your child. How important is that to mentally be prepared for that as well? Because we can speak about the before and the during of pregnancy as a first-time mom at the age of 40, but what about afterwards?
Yes, and I love the stories that have been shared here, where most says she thought she's going to find the demography being younger moms, only to find that it's almost the same age, which also affirms the point that we just made previously of people having children much later. But I think we can think about this process as often later motherhood. It offers more clarity in our decision making, and beyond pregnancy and beyond the fertility journey, the voice of a mother or of a parent who is an older woman or a woman over 40, there is an advocacy that is a little bit firmer. So you are able to say, I want this for my child. You don't go with the flow. I want this kind of curriculum for my child. I want them to go to this type of schools, and these are the reasons. So there's advocacy for self and advocacy also for the babies because of the maturity of thought. We think things well and not just go with societal norms. So for me, I take it as a huge advantage that you have a stronger voice in terms of what I want, how do I want it, where do I want it, and it's not just this automatic thing of I'm just going to accept what they are doing at my child's school, but to be like, hey, I'm here, I'm present, I've got a voice, and I can be firm in what my child is receiving.
Absolutely. And that is very important that we are firm, you know, in what the child is also receiving, but also being able to be fair to ourselves, right? And Nkateko, that's an important part that we also need to think about. And how can we then do that? How can we be, what is the right word, to be soft on ourselves as well, or for parents who are 40, to be soft on themselves and to say, you know what, this is the situation. And I need to also take care of myself as a mom at the age of 40.
Yeah. And we need to speak without shame. I think that is that softness. We need to be gracious to ourselves and encourage ourselves to own our journey, whether the child came through natural conception, IVF, adoption, or surrogacy, to really say, this is my journey. I own up to that, and I know what it takes. I know what it costs as well, and I'm going to do what matters. I think also what is important is what matters, and that whole thing of not being pressurized and having a voice, it's then saying, as a mother, and maybe even an example, I went to a spa, and I had a habit of doing that a certain day, and it happened on that day. It fell on school holidays, and my children protested because I went with them. So they protested and said, I had this and that treatment, and why aren't they having those treatments? And I said, for me to take care of you, I need to take care of myself. So you can imagine a younger mother will not have that voice. They might feel a little bit guilty, to say words like that. Or they will even say to me, Mom, you are a bit stricter. If you had us when you were younger, you will be playful. You will not be as strict as this. And I say to them, well, did your younger mother's friends or whatever, did they take you here, here, here? And then you will hear them, keeping quiet. So meaning that you show up for yourself. So as much as you show up for your children, you are able to show up for yourself as an older parent. That's what I believe.
Dr. Fuziwe has been able to join us. And Dr. Fuziwe, I know very well that it was because you were in theatre and you had quite the emergency. So as long as we won't be able to have extended conversation. However, let's just maybe speak from your point of view, as a Ghanaian, as a doctor. We've spoken about the preparations for women mentally, physically, when they become moms at the age of 40. And welcome to the platform. As a doctor, what do you specifically look out for to ensure that you are able to deliver a healthy child for a mom that falls pregnant at the age of 40?
Hi, Tshegohaco. Hi, team. Sorry, I apologize for being late. It's yeah. So I think the conversation needs to start early on, right? Women are delaying pregnancy, whether it's what do you call it, a conscious choice that they're making, to have kids much later. Perhaps they want to build their careers and to establish, themselves financially before they embark on this journey. So I think women need to actually have that conversation with themselves and be honest with themselves as to what their plans are for the future. And if you anticipate falling pregnant beyond 35, right? I think it's prudent to actually make plans beforehand. We know that, when you older or you want to be pregnant older, that fertility declines, in the older age group, right? So I think when you want to delay, make plans like, okay, fine, I'm gonna have the baby later, so maybe I should store my eggs, right? Because the younger you are, the healthier those eggs are. right? And you reduce the risks of abnormalities, chromosomal abnormalities in the baby. So I think it's very important, when you do start out in your career, save some money, save some eggs, store some eggs, and then you can save them on for later on. Okay, so that's the first part. And basically, it's to reduce, your abnormalities in your babies, and also to improve your fertility, because your fertility levels decline. And number two, it's the risks of having abnormalities in the pregnancy also increases in the older age group. So it's better to actually mitigate what we can. Right. So that's, a piece of advice I would advise to younger women anticipating a pregnancy. Now,
What
having
about,
said that, yeah.
yes, go ahead. No, go ahead, Dr. Fuziwe.
Okay, no, having said that, I think we shouldn't demonize women for wanting, to have, to have children later. And I don't think we should also stigmatize them, calling them geriatric pregnancies. I think it's offensive. And I think we should respect, women who want to actually have their kids later. You're more mature, you know yourself, and I think it's healthier to have for both the mom and the kids, to have kids when you're ready to. If you're not ready at 25, when you're ready. I always say to my patients, don't have a baby because somebody else is forcing you to, or society thinks you should be having a baby. You should be having a baby when you're ready to. If you're 39, go have your baby if you're ready. If you're 42, go have your baby. And then we will deal with the issues that come with mothers who are having children later on in life.
I want to then quickly find out from you, Dr. Fuziwe, because we have run out of time. However, for women who are, 40 and above, or even we understand that the high risk pregnancy started around 35 or so.
Yeah.
But for women that are 40, because our conversation is around, of course, being a first time mom at 40, if you're 40 and above and you decide then to have your first child, what are some of the tips that you would give to that woman when it comes to when she is
When
pregnant?
pregnant.
Pregnancy and
So yeah, so also the conversation starts before you fall pregnant. So you need to plan this pregnancy, right? Get yourself healthy. Okay. So the older women, are more at risk or more inclined to have comorbidities, whether it's diabetes, hypertension. We have an epidemic of obesity in this country. And I think it's important to actually go get those risk factors under control, so that when you are pregnant, you're not putting your pregnancy at a greater risk. Right. And, you need to take your supplements, folic acid, very important before you actually fall pregnant. So when you decide, okay, I'm going to fall pregnant, start taking your folic acid, and then, see your gynae, plan your pregnancy, get, review any medications that you need to be on or that you are on, so that you're not on any medications that cause abnormalities in your baby. So I think that talk with your gynecologist or your doctor beforehand can actually improve the outcomes of your pregnancy. And regular follow up with your gynae. Once you're pregnant, we will check for the risks of chromosomal abnormalities like Down syndrome, to ensure that you have a healthy baby on board. Check for any abnormalities in terms of structure, the heart, the brain in your baby, right? Make sure that your baby's growing well. And then, older women are at risks of your diabetes in pregnancy, preeclampsia. So we manage those conditions and we screen for them. Should you develop them, yes, it puts you at a high risk pregnancy, but I don't think you should put off being pregnant just because you're 40, right? And you shouldn't feel guilty about wanting to fall pregnant when you're 40. And just being 40 doesn't, on its own, at face value, put you at high risk. It's those other things that would make you high risk, like your comorbidities. So I encourage women, yes, fall pregnant when you're ready. And once you're ready, try and mitigate against any issues or any complications in your pregnancy.
That is, of course, Dr. Fuziwe Dlakavu, who's a fetal and maternal specialist, of course, just speaking about what could happen and what you need to plan, how you need to plan physically then for your body should you decide to be a mom at the age of 40 and beyond. And ladies, you know, if there's one thing that I definitely would like for us to do is to grow our community. So just in 30 seconds, for each of you, please let us know where you're situated, how people can get in touch with you, and yeah, just maybe your final thoughts when it comes to this very conversation and this very matter. Nkateko, let's start off with you.
I'm saying that your story matters. It does not matter what kind of a journey are you having. Speak out if you need assistance in that particular journey, the fertility process. Speak out to specialists, speak out to psychologists like myself. I am found on all socials. You can Google my name, Nkateko Ndala-Magoro. We are Well Life Hub. It is a psychology services. So we are on all our socials. You can find us there. Our WhatsApp line is 082-749-7320. But if you Google my name or Google Well Life Hub, that's where we are found.
And that is Nkateko Ndala-Magoro, counseling psychologist. Mo, let's go to you. Where can people get your beautiful clothing, but also maybe just a conversation if they'd like to have about being a mom at the age of 40?
So if you're looking at being an older mom, I don't know how I feel about this term. But yeah, let's say if you're looking at maybe having a child in your later years, just calm your mind, you know? Calm your mind and do the necessary things that are going to help you. Find a support structure, I think is very important. But most importantly, I think calm your mind. Calm your mind. I mean, I'll share one little story, you know, if I can, if there's time. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there time? Okay. So when I think trust your body. Trust your body. Your body knows what it wants. Your baby will speak to you, you know, just listen to your baby throughout the pregnancy. Your baby will speak to you. I know there's an influx of advice, especially if you're having a child at a later stage. Everybody just wants to bombard you with information, you know, on what to do, etc. But I just want to say, trust your child, trust your instincts. And I'm mentioning this because this is what happened to me when I was giving birth, you know. So when I was giving birth, right, I had read an article a while back talking about how gravity is there to assist you have your child, you know. Now, obviously, I'm an older mom and the energy levels are not there as when I was in my 20s. So when I went to, so I gave birth at Pretoria Hospital, right? Amazing staff, amazing nurse. Everybody was just amazing there. So I had decided then that I was going to allow gravity to assist me giving birth. So when I was about to give birth, I actually had a quick conversation because I am in labor. I was in labor for 12 hours. And I had a quick conversation with the nurse and I was like, okay, so have you ever experienced somebody giving birth squatting, you know? And the nurse is like, I mean, I've read it before, but I've never actually been through it. And I was like, you know what? Let's do this. Because I felt like, you know, if I'm lying down, it does not make sense to me to give my baby that way. Let's squat and let my baby come out that way, you know. Luckily, the nurse was like, okay, fine, Chapo, put your leg there, put this. And I'm telling you, my baby was out in under 5 minutes, actually in under 2 minutes, you know. So if you're an older mom, please, I advocate for you to find the courage to suggest this to your nurse because it can be scary. You don't want to overpower the person that's supposed to be in charge of you. But I'm telling you, find the courage to tell the nurse that you must give birth to your child in this position. So my birth was painless. It was seamless. The baby was out in under 2 minutes, very minimal tear. But yeah, in closing, that's what I think I want to share. If people want to reach out for me for my clothes or for the motherhood, I've got a page on Facebook called Mummy and Bumpy, and I'm also on TikTok as well as Mummy and Bumpy. But for my fashion side, it's Marriage Material by Venzuse or just Venzuse. That's where you can find me, and thank you.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Dlakavu, you were nodding to Mo saying, let gravity lead.
Actually, I'm glad that Mo was able to have a vaginal birth, right? Because you'd find that practitioners would force patients, older moms, to go have that Caesar. And I believe, the right of a woman to, it's the right of a woman to choose how she wants to birth. I'm not bashing Caesars. If you want to have a Caesar, great, we'll do it, right? But if you want to experience natural childbirth, I think you should also be given the voice and the space to experience that. So, kudos to you. And I hope women would actually find their voice. If you're not happy about anything, if you're uncomfortable, speak out, whether it's to your nurse, to the midwife, or to your gynae. I think, we've become such a patriarchal society, and it's time for women to actually speak up for themselves. But having said that, I encourage women who are planning a pregnancy, have that conversation before you fall pregnant, right? Seek medical advice, go see your gynae, go see your GP, and actually have that conversation. We'll work through the journey with you. We have doctors such as myself, we fetal and maternal specialists. We specialize in high-risk pregnancies, your older moms, moms with medical problems. We ensure, or we try to ensure that you have a healthy, safe pregnancy, a healthy, safe delivery that will ensure a healthy mom and a healthy baby. I am based in Randburg at Olivedale Clinic. Email, you can contact us at Dr. Dlakavu, that's DLAKAVU @gmail.com. And our telephone lines 011 462 7736. Thank you.
Dr. Dlakavu, thank you so much. And thank you to all the ladies who joined us this afternoon, for our very first conversations with Eminent Women. And to the Eminent Women community, let's call it that. Thank you so much for the love that you've shown us this afternoon. Let's do it again, God willing, next week, with another bunch of lovely Eminent Women, but a greater topic as well that we'll be bringing you. So thank you so much for tuning in, and have yourselves a lovely day further. Bye-bye.